I am speaking with Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Ben Carson, former brain surgeon, and a pleasure to speak with you today, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So we were at the ALEC conference. Tell me about the RAD program that you're...
Well, the rental assistance demonstration is one of the many tools that we have to preserve affordable housing. And a lot of the public housing stock is just deteriorating, and the capital needs continue to accumulate, and they fall further and further behind. By creating incentives for private sector to come in, take some ownership, and as part of that responsibility, rehabilitating the projects, then we're able to greatly reduce the expenditures on behalf of the taxpayers, at the same time create a win-win type situation, much better product, and frequently we do these in conjunction with the rest of the neighborhood and planning in terms of transportation, education, healthcare needs, and building much more holistic type communities so that we don't have the same types of things that were driving the deterioration of the community previously.
Tell me about the deterioration of the community previously.
Well, previously we had when I say we, I'm talking collectively, the government, of coming in and building these very large concentrated areas. And in the beginning, actually, some of them didn't look that bad, okay? But nobody was really taking the kind of responsibility that was necessary. Plus, they didn't have good schools. They didn't have good mechanisms for transporting people to jobs. And in addition to that, we had a rent structure where if you made more money, your rent went up immediately. If you brought another income-producing person into the environment or dare not do something like get married, you might lose your subsidy altogether. So we ended up in a situation where you have a lot of people who are not necessarily incentivized to work. You have a lot of single moms whose formal education ended with that first child, who really don't see themselves as part of advancing the American dream. Those to no fault of their own, are the targets of what we need to encourage the development.
What it sounds to me like you're doing is that you're taking free market ideas and applying them to what was LBJ's Great Society program, which was HUD.
Yes, that's exactly right. And, HUD has changed tremendously in the sense that we now have a CFO for the first time in 8.5 years. We have a COO. We have a CIO, Chief Information Officer. They're all working together to create the kind of infrastructure that you see in business as opposed to in bureaucracy. We're setting financial controls now so that, if you're getting a grant, that comes along with some transparency. And we want to know where that money is going, when it's going to be used, how it's going to be used, where it's going to be used. All of those kind of things have created some enemies for us, quite frankly. People who were benefiting from the previous system, they don't like it. But that's okay, because we keep our eyes focused on the goal. And the goal here is to get people out of poverty, to create self-sufficiency, which in the long run strengthens our country. The fewer people that we have in a dependent situation who become tax-paying productive members of society, the stronger we get.
So it really is a free market incentivizing idea in order to kind of push HUD forward. Exactly. And
and the whole concept of HUD being part of the Great Society, I think actually they meant well. They weren't monitoring what was going on. They weren't seeing that they were actually creating dependency. But I don't think we should demonize them for that. What we should do is learn from what was done. And eventually there may come a time when we need less of, government assistance. But, in order to get there, we just have to be very structured and creative in the way that we provide it, and we have to have a goal.
Interesting. Now, also the budget for HUD has been reduced a bit over time. I mean, it was up at around, was it like $48 billion a year, and now it's about, was it $41 billion?
Yeah, it's been changing. It's been in flux. But we recognize, along with the rest of the government, that compassion includes compassion for the next generation. And as we increase the national debt, we also decrease the likelihood of success for our children and our grandchildren. And if we continue to accumulate debt at this rate by the year 2048, every penny the government takes in goes to service the debt. There won't be money for any program. So we have to be a little smarter in the way that we use it. One of the things that I've been pushing for is not to give me more money, but to give me more flexibility with the way that it's used. So I have all these silos, and you got this much money and this one, and you can't take money from here and move it over here. You got to go through all kinds of appropriation deals. What if your home was run that way? What if the new pair of tires for the car, but no, you can't get it until you do all these other things? You're probably not going to get them. So, we just need to think through these things a little bit more. We can save a lot of money if we do it the right way.
I've been given a time notice here. I have just one other question to answer quickly, and that is about veteran homelessness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with 1% of our population protects the other 99%.
Yeah.
And yet so many of our veterans come back traumatized. And so HUD, combined with the VA supportive housing, the HUD VASH program, has worked very hard to provide them not only with housing, but with the wraparound services that they need in terms of clinical care and other things. It's been extraordinarily successful. In the last year-over-year point in time census, it has been reduced by 5.4% just in that year-over-year. 64 communities in 33 states have declared a virtual end to veterans homelessness, and 3 states have declared it. And we're continuing to work on that. It's making a lot of progress.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Pleasure.